You were here with By the Cover. Today I'll be reviewing The Talisman by Stephen King and Peter Straub. This book was 769 pages and took me 12 days to read. I would rate this book an 8 out of 10. This review will contain spoilers, so if you do not want to hear those, click off now. The synopsis. The Talisman follows 12-year-old Jack Sawyer as he journeys from New Hampshire to California, across both the United States and the territories, a magical, dangerous parallel world, to find a mystical relic capable of curing his dying mother. As far as my likes with the book, there were sections of this book that I thought were excellent. The beginning of the book up to the point of the Oatly Tap section. I thought the ending of the Oatly Tap section was great. All sections dealing with Wolf and his family, those were my favorite parts of this book. The ending I thought was excellent, probably my favorite ending in any Stephen King book ever, which makes me question if Peter Straub wrote that part. Portions of the book that I thought were good but not great. Jack's time at Oatly Tap I thought broke up the pacing of the story right as it was getting rolling. The time at the Sunlight Gardener's school I felt was good but not great, as I felt it dragged on a bit too long. The ending of the storyline was polarizing. Overall, I feel the payoff was very strong, no matter which way you felt about it. The book had great character work. I loved the protective but naive nature of Wolf. I feel he is the most lovable character in the book by far. If you would have told me before reading the book that I would have given two craps about a werewolf character, I would have called you a liar. I do not like werewolf stories, but here we are with a werewolf being one of my favorite characters in any of King's books. I enjoyed Lily's character, who is Jack's mother. She was very colorful and memorable. I really like some of the side characters we get to meet along the way. Speedy, Buddy, and the rug salesman come to mind. I really loved where the Speedy storyline ended and the dichotomy of what he was in one world versus the other. Jack himself is a fairly enjoyable character as well. However, he did feel a little flat at times. On the antagonist side, we have characters such as Sonny Gardner, Elroy, and Smokey Updike. I found all of them interesting in their own ways, and they were fairly compelling antagonists. I thought Morgan Sloat was the least intriguing of the bad guys, which isn't great since he is the main one. His motivation was primarily just power, which is very surface level and cliché for an antagonist. As far as my dislikes of the book, I love the motivation for the plot, but the plot itself is extremely basic. The plot simplified is basically needing to get from point A to point B to get something. This story is really about the journey and why it is being undertaken. That is where the meat of it lies. The story can feel very bloated as it feels like Jack is getting held up at certain locations far too long, and I felt that there wasn't enough actual traveling in the book. The traveling portions are glossed over a lot of the time in favor of sticking to certain locations. This broke up the pacing of the book. I would contrast this by saying that I am okay if a story puts me through portions of the plot that I'm not really enjoying, if I think the payoff for those sections is worth it. In this book, I felt like, for the most part, the payoffs of the slower sections were worth it. It can't be ignored. Richard's character when Jack first meets him is extremely annoying. I like his character arc and where he eventually ends up, but getting there is very painful, and a lot of it is unnecessary. The final thing I dislike in this book was the choice to have the Talisman sing out for Jack and tell him what to do towards the end of the book. This would have been fine if it was just a couple of times, but it is done way too many times. It extends over the course of 50 or more pages. This really reminded me of how King handled the Crimson King in the Dark Tower. This may be the seed that was planted to grow into that idea, which was not a good one. Overall, this book wasn't perfect. It did have its flaws, but I am very glad that I read it. The portions of the book I disliked were only slight annoyances compared to the parts that I did like, which are portions that I absolutely loved. This is a book that I would consider a classic King book. I'm looking forward to reading the rest of the series. That's about it. We'll catch you later.